Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, let's take a look at the agentic AI Jokebot that we built in this lesson. I think the results will raise some interesting questions about AI's ability to be creative. Let's take a look. I'm showing the graph that we built here. As you know, in the last lesson, we were using the fetch joke node where we were making a call on the 𝗫𝗁𝗃 package. In this lesson, we replaced that with the writer and critic loop here. The writer generates the joke, the critic evaluates the joke, and if it thinks it's funny, it passes it on. Otherwise, the writer gets another attempt at cracking a joke. So we do that in a loop, and that's the system we built here. Okay, let's try it out. So I'm going to just run the script. Let's see how funny it can be. Okay, let's get the next joke. Again, this is written by the LLMs. Our next joke is, okay, why do Python developers prefer to hug their code? Because they don't want to deal with any indentation issues. Okay, that's not bad. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, why did the developer go broke? Because he lost his domain in a bet. Okay, I don't get that, but I'm kind of dense with some of these things. All right, the next one. Why do Python developers prefer dark mode? Because light attracts bugs. Yeah, that's funny. I've seen that before, so I'm not laughing, but it is a funny joke. All right, you see it's repeated the same joke again. I'm going to talk about the repetition being an issue. Let's try one more time. Okay, why did the developer go broke? Because he kept using up all his cache. Okay, yeah, that's a classic joke again. Let's do one more. And then you see it's repeated this joke one more time. Okay, so let's switch out of this. But what I really wanted to do was talk about the issue here we are seeing, right? So let's see. We are basically testing LLMs for a creative task, and you can test this out yourself, the program, and I can try to make it better. But let's see. Okay, so what we saw, two problems. Some jokes were unfunny, at least to me, and repetition was a problem, right? We just saw that in a very quick demo ourselves. So how would we address this? Let's quickly talk about what I wouldn't try to do. Okay, so first, I don't really think this is a multi-agent problem. I know we have a loop of a writer and a critic, but I wouldn't do anything beyond that. Like I wouldn't add a third agent or a fourth agent just to try to get this to be a collaboration job. It's creating a joke. I mean, how many people need to be involved in the real world? How many agents need to be involved in an agentic system? So it's not really that kind of a task, right? It doesn't require planning and breaking it apart and those kinds of things. So the other one is prompt engineering. I would try some basic things, but I wouldn't try to do too much, right? It's not like a list of things, do this, don't do that, don't do that. I mean, there's a few things there, but it's not really, you can't really hack this to death, the prompt, because with creative tasks, the more you give it, you're only going to make the repetition problem worse, right? So you actually want to remove the restraints, not add more by specifying a lot of things in the prompt. So I wouldn't really try to do that. That's not good for a creative task. Okay, what might I try? Of course, one thing that we should do in such systems is to just pass previously created jokes, right? Whether they were passed or not, just pass them on to the the LLM and say create something new, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we should be doing that. Try a stronger LLM for sure. In my experience, using more pricey, bigger models does tend to give you better quality results. And then the human in the loop, that's really not to improve the quality on a single call per se, but what it does do is get a human to curate the process, right? Instead of just taking the joke from the critic, it's like the human is the critic, and we say, give me another, keep repeating it until you find something joke, you save it, you go on to the next one. That's how usually these systems are done, where LLMs are made to generate things and the human is a curator. Okay, that's what I would do, right? Now, I want to bring up, like I'm making this as a problem. Let's first clarify something. In many cases, in most real world applications, in fact, anything that I've been involved in, repetition, memorization is actually a feature, right? It's not a bug. So we want things to be repetitive because that means it's consistent. Okay, so memorization in a lot of cases is actually a thing that you desire from the system, because it means it might be a factual query, right? There's one right answer and you can't have anything else being produced, right? That's what we call a hallucination. So in most real world apps, you don't want a surprise, you don't want novelty, you don't want creativity, you just want one right answer. But creativity is a need in some applications, right? So you didn't want that in this case. In case of this Jokebot, repeated jokes, it's just memorization. The jokes that I did find funny, I'm pretty sure those are jokes that it found on the internet in the training data, right? It's not something that it actually wrote. It's not something creative. So let's raise this question: can AI really be creative, right? So we see a lot of posts, articles about people using Gen AI to produce images, even videos these days. You will see a lot of them. And as you know, these models, these image models or multimodal models, I'm sure have been trained on millions, tens of millions, even more videos, images, you know, and God knows how many. So how can we be sure that what we are seeing there, just because we do not recognize it, doesn't mean it's not just copied from somewhere, right? Or it's just like a weighted function of something that was in the training data. I mean, it's just, you know, maybe that's what it is. That's what we call creativity. So it's probably the same issue with image and video generation too, right? So the question is, can LLMs truly be creative, or is it just a remix? Now, this is, I wanted to raise a bigger question, right? So the reason I also picked this particular example, writing jokes, is because humor is a very hard thing to do, right? In fact, you can't teach humans to be funny, right? You're either born funny or you're not funny. I mean, I can tell from experience, my wife says I have zero sense of humor, which she's right, and there's nothing I can do to become funny, right? So can LLMs be funny? So I think in most cases, if they're funny, it's just something it's seen from the training data. So can they really be funny? As in, can they be innovative? Can they create original content that's funny? That remains to be seen. And I mean, it will raise some more fundamental questions about, are humans even creative, or are we also just inspired by our life experiences? I'll leave that question for you to ponder. But at least in the case of LLMs, I think we have to go a long ways before they can truly be creative in the true sense of the word. So anyway, that's it I wanted to cover in this video. Hope you found it valuable, useful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.